How's it going, YouTube? Collection today with another video, and today, guys, what to bring to you is the long-awaited Handtrap number 3. Now, this is a very cool video because I have 15 different decks to talk about. There is one in here that I made a kind of fix on because I wanted to just say a better interaction than what I had put before, but everything in here is very carefully thought out. There's a lot of decks in here that aren't very talked about, but there are multiple interactions with them, and you will see them at events, and they're not very unheard of to be going up against. So I do hope that this video does help you as always. I do want to thank you so much for 4,000 subs. That is so amazing. You guys are honestly incredible. I love all of you. The fact that I was just at 1,200 like a week and a half ago, now I'm at 4K, I'm just so ecstatic. Then at 5K, I get to host my community tournament. Hopefully I get to meet a lot of you. We're going to be having a bunch of community nights soon. My streaming schedule is now going to be Monday and Tuesday, 7 p.m. EST to about midnight-ish. So I do hope that you guys come there. You guys can find my link to my Twitch in the description below, my Twitter, as well as my Metafy link. If you guys do need one-on-one coaching sessions, I do offer those. Then also my Discord links in the description below. So feel free to go and join all of those. I'm always active in the community, and if you ever have questions, feel free to DM me on Discord or just openly post to my deck building channel. We always have different theories going on in there. I really just want to take a minute and say that I don't have relevant tops. I'm not one of the best players in the world, but I have so much information to give you guys, and it's just one of those things where you may not be able to get a big win, but the small wins that you get leading up to improvement is everything that I ever want to see you guys ever do. Because if you get that small win, you guys can take that a bit further, and let's say you win a local, and then you take that local win and you go out and you win a case tournament, right? And then you go after that and you win, like, not even win. Let's say you get like top 8 at a regional. Like, I'm so proud of you guys. And I love every single time that one of you come up to me and you're like, hey, you know, I just won my first local. I just got my first top 8 at a regional. It's honestly like one of the greatest things that I can really give back to you. Because the only reason I do content is because of you guys, and that's a really big thing for me, is the fact that I just want to see you improve. It doesn't matter who you go up against, because those people can be you. You just have to take the advice that I give you, that your friends give you, that you see in tournaments, apply it to your game, and then just skyrocket forward. Just do as best as you can, pick up as much information on the way, and just honestly soar, because that's all I ever want to see from you guys, is just doing the best that you can and leaving it all out on the table. So without further ado, let's hop right into this video and talk about all these different decks that you now will know how to stop. To start things off, we have Zombies. Now, Zombies are a deck that we've seen in and out of the metagame for a long time, and that's because of Zombie Orcust. Now, this does not mean that Zombies alone cannot be effective. Being the pure zombie deck, we have to look at it a lot like pure Eldlick. So if you look at Eldlick, the whole point of the deck is to have Golden Lord on the board, right? So you can activate your traps. The whole point of the zombie deck is to have Bold Rock, and that's their end board, that's all their interaction, that's what they really want to do, is they want to have Bold Rock. So you want to have a way to control your opponent's main win con. If their main win con is Bold Rock, then you got to do everything under your power to stop it from happening. So you can use Meister or Bell to go ahead and stop the Bold Rock hitting the board. You can Asher Meister the Bloom in the graveyard to also stop it from hitting the board. And then you can also Imperm or Valor the Unizombie, so they can't get the multiple resources and they cannot discard from their hand, because this way you'll actually completely shut down the deck and they won't be able to get to their main win con, which will auto make the deck just lose to itself. This is a very, very big idea that you can apply to many different decks. Even if you don't know what you're playing against, if you can get the gist of what the deck is doing, like if they're turboing out one card, just control how they get that card out. And if you can control to the fact that they cannot get it out, they just lose. Same with like Striker, right? Like, I need Ray. If I can't get to a Ray, or I can't float into a Ray, like you're crawling it out of the graveyard, that's the whole point of Striker, right? Like, they need Ray. So if you can control Ray, then all of a sudden you can control the win. So moving on off of this deck, that is a very important idea that I hope you take with you. To number 2 here is that we have the Code Talker deck. Now, I've seen people ask me about this because it can be a truly scary deck that if you have no interruption or if you don't know where to stop it, they can have endless gas. But we have Ogre in this format, and Ogre will be one of the most cracked cards, and you'll see that through all these different scenarios and decks here, that Ogre is just so relevant. So for one, Ogre on Signet Codec, which allows them to keep adding different Signet monsters, is super, super important, because that even allows them to add things like Parallel Exceed, right? Because if they summon like the Wind, then they can add a Wind. That's a Cyberse. So it's very important to go ahead and Ghost Ogre the Codec. The card is cracked. The other thing is a lot of their main combos start with like the microcoder and going to the grave. So always Asher and Meister the search here because you don't want this from going off to get them very free advantage. The other thing is they really rely on transcode. So always Bell, Imperm, or Valor, the transcode talker. Do not let it reborn. Don't give them extra material and extra arrows for them to use. This is another deck, like I said, that can be very, very scary. So just be on your toes. Ogre the Codec. Ashmeister the coder, and then always hit the transcode because you do not want to give them more resources than they already have. Moving on to the next one here. Now, I have a lot to say about Fluffal because this deck can absolutely kill you out of nowhere. So we're going to be breaking this down very, very carefully. So Wings. Wings, this card is in the graveyard. It is your main priority that you stop this. Ashmeister this thing because it will allow them to draw, I believe, 2. And then they can send the toy vendor from their field to the grave, and then toy vendor adds a Fluffal. So you need to be able to stop the wing with a Ash or a Meister. It includes the effect to draw, so obviously you can Ash, and then when it's in the grave, you can Meister that. Need to know this in this matchup. This is the #1 priority, because when this goes off, it's just way too much advantage. The other thing is that if you are afraid of a board clear, the Tiger is always going to be the board clear. So you need to Imperm or Valor this because this is very important. You will be basically just at a disadvantage because they can just clear off a ton with Tiger. So just make sure that if you are afraid of the board clear, you do save your Imperm or Valor for the Tiger. The next thing here is that always Ash the Patchwork if you're not afraid of the wings, because you can always like Meister the wing, but like Ashing the Patchwork is another very good hit. It allows them to add an Edge Imp and a Poly, so make sure that you're on top of this one as well, that they can actually just get a lot of advantage off of Patchwork. So if you do have an extra Ash in your hand, make sure that you are waiting for something like the Patchwork. Last but not least, always make sure that you're ready for this. This isn't like a Handtrap scenario, but just be ready for this. They play a card called Edge and Scythe that allows them in your main phase to fusion summon from the hand, and they'll summon the whale and allows them to pop a card on both sides of the board. So just if they look like they don't have a lot, just know that this is probably sitting in their hand and they're going to be ready to pop a card in your board. So just, again, be ready for that. That caught me off guard the first time I learned that. So hopefully you guys now know that and you guys don't get caught off guard by this. They always have the pop. Next up is the Burning Abyss deck. Always Ash the Graph. That one's pretty straightforward. I feel you just always want to Ash this thing. But the thing that's most important about Burning Abyss is that you always want to stop the Seer Dante loop. What I mean by that is they'll go Seer target Dante, Dante target Seer. You want to stop this from happening because this gets very toxic very fast and they get a lot of resources and they never really lose resources. So always make sure that you're belling or meistering these two because you don't want them to keep looping these on you and just getting endless resources. Moving forward. We have the Adamancipator Prank deck. This one was kind of hard to think about, but there's always a chance that they're not going to have a negation before they hit the Roxy's. So you always want to act like this is normal Prank Kids and just Ash or Meister the Kid. And then always Imperm or Valor the Leonite. But that's typically for pure. I feel like for the Adamancipator Rock deck, like the Prank deck, that you want to actually just hit the Researcher. This becomes more important in this variant because they can get to the Roxy's. Whereas in the other variant, they're really leaning on like their Leonite. So like, at worst, hit the Leonite, but always Imperm Valor the Researcher because you don't want them to hit into their Roxy's. This is just a terrible thing to happen because then they can go combo even harder. They typically need this before they get to this, so this is always a nice hit to have. Would I Ash this first? Probably not. I would wait for this if you had that. If you had like Ash Imperm, just Imperm this, Ash this. But just keep that in mind as this is a very real deck that you could be playing against as well. The other thing I've been getting asked a lot about is the Earth Machine deck. You can always like hit the Metal Cruncher, but I feel like the #1 thing to nail is honestly just the Brutal Dozer. The thing allows them to like summon another one from the deck and just gets them a ton of advantage. So like Imperm, Valor, Ash, do what you got to do to stop the Dozer from going off. Because a lot of times like they don't have the extra piece, and this gives them the other piece to extend with. So just make sure that you're on top of this. This is very, very important. And the other thing is if you don't want to die and you have monsters on your board, definitely Valor or Imperm the Juggernaut so you don't just auto lose to a huge beatstick. This is very important as well. If you're feeling pretty good, like you won't die to it, then you can always hit the dozer, because there's a good chance they won't be able to hit this. I always put this on dozer. You can ash urgent schedule, and that is perfectly fine. If you see urgent schedule hitting the board, you should ash that. 100% do that. You should use your Veiler or Imperm on the dozer. But if you do see the schedule hit the board, always ash that. I just want to put up the specific interaction with a monster, and that being dozer. The other one obviously being the Juggernaut, so you don't just auto die. Other than that, again, there should be an urgent schedule here, but again, I just want to show like the monster interaction, so make sure that you're always on top of these. And then let me know how it works out, because some of these interactions are kind of less clear because there's a lot of cards that do a lot of things in the decks like this, but dozer is always just the correct answer here. Moving forward, against Guru, you really just want to Ghost Ogre the Hidden City. You could always like gamble super hard and Ogre the Guru, but that's just not correct play and not technically sound, because they could just have the Fiendus and then it wouldn't matter anyway. So always just Ogre the Hidden City so they don't get the Guru flip. It's very, very important. If you're newer to the game, if they activate Hidden City, you can't Ogre then. You have to wait until the card activates on the board to flip the Guru, and then you can Ogre it. So like, it has to be face up first. Because that's actually come up a lot, so I just want to make sure I'm clear about that. But always Ogre the Hidden City. The other thing is always ash the pot card. Never let them draw two. You were almost always just doing this 100%. Like, don't ash anything else. Just wait for this. Because if you ever like try to ash Guru, it's just bad because they probably have the Fiendus. And if they don't, then like you get rewarded. But you shouldn't get rewarded for things like that when you can just openly ash the pot. If you ever like don't see the pot come down though, and then they have like Guru, I'd probably just ash it anyway, to make them burn the Fiendus so that they don't have it, which is equally good. But if you see the pot come down first, always ash the pot 100%. The other thing, this is something that I wanted to fix. Now, Evil Twin, the Link 4, Trouble Sunny, just bell it. I said Imperm, which, I mean, it's fine to, like, make it go off. But the one thing that I actually wasn't clear on is the fact that if they use Trouble Sunny's effect, they can choose to bring back only the pink one or only the blue one. So they'll probably just bring back, like, the pink one just so they can use the effect to bring back the blue one and pop a card. So just always bell the effect of the Trouble Sunny. Just wanted to get this one out there. Very, very important. It just kind of shuts down the whole deck. Just make sure that you bell this thing. Very, very important. If there's ever anything like that comes up, I'll always just like repost it and then like correct myself. But always bell this thing. Thanks for everyone who called that out in the comments. Thanks. Now, Bird Up. Bird Up is going to be a very real deck, so this is something that you really have to know. So, off the basic combo, they're going to be going Fractal to send Sparrow, because they'll have a card called Warblurg in their hand, which allows them a free summon of itself, and it can actually reborn the Sparrow. So, they're going to activate Fractal to send Sparrow to the graveyard, so you should, like 110% be ashing Fractal in this matchup now. If you know it's Bird Up, you need to ash the Fractal. It's very, very important. You don't want them to get to the Sparrow. The other thing is that while we're playing Ogre, go ahead and Ogre the Simorg Link. It makes your life a whole lot easier, and the whole board is like something you can deal with at that point, and nothing's like untargetable. So Ogreing the Simorg Link is just so fire. It's so good. And then last but not least, the whole first combo, if you just open Imperm, they're going to go on like full Bird Up combo to summon Appaloosa, and then they're going to normal summon like their kit or whichever to summon out like their tribe link monsters and start going. Always hold your Imperm once the Appaloosa is on the board. Imperm the first name that gets a normal summoned or a special summoned if it's like a Karis. Always hit the first summon after the Appaloosa with the Imperm. Just because it's very, very important. They're not going to see it coming. They're going to feel very safe behind their Appaloosa. So always nail the first summon with the Imperm. Very, very important. Moving on. Orcust, there's going to be a lot of people that you'll see playing Orcust soon once we start getting cards back and new cards in the format, which is actually like really kind of cool because it's a deck that a lot of people want to see back. But the Orcust Crescendo is something that a lot of people are sending right now with Foolish Burial Goods to search things like the Girsu. So make sure that you're on top of using Ash or Meister to ban it, or like when they banish it to negate it, so they can't add. This is a very big thing that people are actually just running goods for right now. The other thing is always Imperm or Veiler, the Girsu. This thing's just broken. You should know that. Always negate this thing. Very, very important. And then last but not least, always Bell or Meister the effective skeleton to bring back the Ningirsu. Again, you just don't want that kind of interaction with yourself, so make sure that you're stopping them from getting that far. Also, Meister's is very good against any of the pieces in the graveyard, but especially the simple skeleton is very good. Moving forward, I don't really have a lot for ABC because there's a lot of cards you just can't interact with. The Union Driver banishes for cost. The unauthorized reactivation just equips one from deck, which is another very good card in that deck. But always just like Ash and then like Ogre the Hanger so they don't get the additional piece. The deck just kind of loses to itself off of bricks usually. So that's not something you should count on. But the best interaction you have with the deck right now is just like Ashing the Hanger or Ogring the Hanger. Again, just you don't want to give them like too many pieces. Plus, like the Hanger just gives them grind. So always make sure that you're on top of doing this interaction with ABC. Noid. So Infernoid is something that's really important to talk about too, because this is an unexpected deck that can come out of nowhere, and I'm pretty sure no one knows about this. Imperm or Valor the Equal Max, because this is actually the card that allows them to OTK in the deck, and it's really crazy because it gets huge. And then you can activate like the Infernoid to like tribute it, which is pretty crazy. So I've seen that happen too. This card just like allows you like so much free advantage just to be able to attack for a ton. So always Imperm or Valor the Equal Max. The other thing is always Ash the Imagination. Like if you're playing a back row deck, then Ash the Feast. But whichever one comes first, I'd probably Ash that one first. But if you have it, like if you're going first and then they go second, and then you watch them activate an Imagination, 110% you are Ashing that all day long. If they're going first, then you'll Ash the Feast. So it's kind of like a trade-off here, right? If they're going first, do this. If they're going second, do this. Imagination's cracked. You just don't want this thing to go off, sending everything from their deck. If they're going first, always Ash the Feast. They might have to, but it gets less bad if you just at least Ash the one. But yeah, these are cards you just always want to stop so they don't get just a ton of free advantage on you. Next up here is the DDD deck. So I actually got a lot of comments about this and wondering like how do you stop this deck. And so this is a deck that can really pop off now, especially with the new support. So always Ogre the fusion spell. I think this is very good, just because it gives them one less option as far as going into their fusions. The deck itself just kind of needs its first couple fusions to go off before it can really pop off. So this is another very, very nice interaction here. The other thing is if you are playing Meister, which you should be, because Meister is like the best hand trap in my opinion. It's not like the best, but it's like insane, and the interactions with this card are endless. Meister the Necro Slime, honestly, like this is such a cool interaction that you can like stop them. Because a lot of times they're using this in the Necro Slime to make the high Genghis, and like if they just don't get to that, like the deck has such a hard time like with bricking, and like it has such like fishbowl linear lines of play, that it just needs the Necro to go off, and basically the deck just needs everything to play out perfectly for it to actually be able to do anything. That's why cards like Nibiru hurt so bad. But always Meister the Necro Slime, and then always Imperm, Valor, Bell the Genghis. Again, the first couple of fusion effects are the most important, and always the first one is the Genghis. So just make sure that you're going to go ahead and negate the Genghis. So the next thing up here is Thunder Dragon. I just want to make a couple quick notes about this. Titan is something that can activate whenever they activate a Thunder effect from hand. So make sure that you are chaining to the effect with Valor or Imperm, because they might be able to chain over top of that, but at least they'll only get one pop on you. But as long as you respond to whatever Thunder effect happens in hand to the Titan, the effect of Titan to pop will not happen. It will miss timing. So make sure that you are Imperming or Valoring after they activate a Thunder effect in hand, like Thunder, Dark, or Matrix, because that will shut down their Titan, and then it becomes a lot less scary. Always Ash the Chaos Space, but if you don't see the Chaos Space come down, this will be the first thing that they activate. If you don't see this happen, then Ash the Dragon Roar, so they don't get free pieces from the deck and free searches like their Dragon Dark and whatnot. Always make sure that you're Ashing this first, but if you don't see this, Ash this. Lastly here, Bell the Thunder Dragon Fusion, because it puts cards back from your grave to your deck in its card text, so you're allowed to bell it. So always make sure that you're on top of belling the Thunder Dragon Fusion so they can't summon their Titan. All right, last but not least here is Marincess. Marincess is a deck that we see getting a lot of support right now, and I have a lot of people asking me how you stop this deck. So one of the most cracked cards in this deck is the anemone. I want to say that's how you pronounce it, because it just allows you to get things back like your swap frog if you're playing that variant of it. It allows you to back like your blue slug. So just make sure that you are belling, imperming, veiling this card. Really just imperming or veiling, but bell is still pretty good. You just don't want this card to go off because it is very, very good. The effect to just get back pieces is so real, and like it's so a part of their combo that like if you stop this, a lot of times like if they don't have the additional extender, like they just kind of have to pass. And this is just very, very good. And you'll see this in like paleo decks too. Just always make sure that if you ever see this card hit the board, that you're interacting with it, because it's just such a good card that not a lot of people really know about. The other one is just Ogre, the Battle Ocean, so they can't get all the equips underneath their guy, and he's just like the Link 3, the Link 4 being the EMZ, it equips all the Link monsters that they use, like at least 3 of them from the Battle Ocean, and then it makes them like unaffected and have all these crazy effects. But like if you just Ogre the Battle Ocean, then all of a sudden like their board doesn't really matter, is because they really like need Battle Ocean to go crazy. So always make sure that you're on top of Ogering that as well. If you guys are wondering why I know so much about all these decks, though, if you guys come over to Twitch in my description below, again, my stream schedule is going to be Monday and Tuesday, 7 p.m. EST to midnight. These are days where you can see me literally trying out every single deck under the sun. And the only reason I do that is so I know exactly how to stop them and how to play around them. I actually like will play the deck too, just because I want to know what the deck does and where the choke points are, just so I have that knowledge. So if it ever comes up, I don't get like really surprised by that. But these are your 15 decks for today, guys. I do hope that this helped you guys. I do hope that you enjoyed this. There are a ton of decks in here you might not have even thought about, or interactions you might not have thought about. So I do hope that this broadens your knowledge. Again, I just appreciate each and every one of you so much, because I'm already at 4,000 and I'm just so excited for 5,000 to host this tournament for you all. See all of you all in the Discord and just kind of talk to you and get to know who each one of you are. This is a community, again, like for the community, by the community. I just want to be able to put out the content that really helps all of you grow. And so without further ado, if you guys want to be a part of my community even further, go ahead and join my Discord in the description below. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that each and every one of you have a wonderful day. Thank you.